Okay, so I have mentioned that this is a program kickoff for our program on ESG sustainability for micro, small, and medium enterprises. And today we are delighted to just give you an introduction of ESG sustainability and the opportunities that lie therein. So I am delighted to welcome our speaker for the day. Her name is Terry Kinyua, and she is the country manager at Invest in Africa. As we go along, if you have any questions, comments, please put them in the chat box and we will be able to address them at the end of her session. Welcome very much, Terry. Please feel free to take it away.
Thank you very much, Jean, and thank you everyone who has made time to be in this session today. As Jean says, I'm Terry and I'm country manager for Invest in Africa. And this afternoon, I'm so delighted that we're kicking off this program. We actually expected to kick off a few months earlier, so we are super excited that it's finally off the ground. And it's a 2-month program. We look forward to continuing to learn together, to have some results, to have some impact, but more importantly, at the end of the 2 months, for you to have clarity, where would you like your business to go in terms of ESG sustainability? Would you actually make a decision or a goal to go for and move forward, progress towards this direction and adapt some of the things that you will learn. So look forward to your participation, engagement. I hope it's not a one-time show that we'll see you today, we won't see you the next time, but I'm really looking forward to us working the 2 months together. I appreciate everyone who has introduced themselves in the meeting chat box. It gave me a moment to be able to check what's going on, to understand where everyone is coming from. I was hoping to see a bit of expectations. I didn't see that, but I'm sure as we progress, we'll be able to speak some more. As Gina said, today we are aiming for really just an introduction, and some few areas will overlap with what we have done previously if any of you are joined, but because of the time lapse between the last time when we talked about our desire to move in this direction and now when we are actually kicking off the program, and the fact that a few other members have not had a chance to join before, please pardon us and let us walk the journey together. And I'd like by very simply starting with considering why sustainability and particularly why in the context of MSMEs in Kenya. And as Jean has said, we are very, very passionate about empowering MSMEs to create sustainable jobs because we are firm believers that SMEs are drivers of socioeconomic development for our country, and that for our economy to prosper, therefore, we must fully participate as MSMEs. And I actually attended a session where one of the PSCs for the Ministry of MSME Development was speaking, and she said there are 18 million MSMEs right now in Kenya, and out of those, 15 million are actually micro. But what struck me was that there are 18 million organizations, companies in this country. So we are contributing to both the good as well as the bad. First and foremost, we are, sorry, I'm not sure why that went back. I'm sorry about that hitch, but Jean, someone else took control of the slides.
Okay, just reshare.
Maybe. Okay, that's the wrong one. I'm sorry. Sorry about that hitch. Someone just took over the slides. I'm sure it was accidental, so we will continue. Thank you. We are back on track. So what I was saying is that when it comes to job creation, micro, small, and medium enterprises are contributing at least 85% of the new jobs in the economy throughout. Income generation almost at half. And therefore, when you think about income generation and this number of jobs, it means that MSMEs are critical for livelihoods, for alleviating especially extreme poverty. The fact that people are able to put on a meal on a table is because many of these MSMEs are providing the jobs and the livelihoods therein. And further, because of very low entry barriers, it means that we are distributed across every region of the country, across various sectors. So it also brings a very good balanced economic development that we all get to move together as a nation um, in contrast to just where you see large companies being in bigger cities where maybe the infrastructure has to be developed to a certain critical level. At the same time, as you look at the positive, it means then that 18 million of us are therefore contributing towards environmental degradation. How do we manage, for example, our waste, social inequality? How do we take care of matters of social inclusion, matters of gender equality, and things like that? And therefore, it is therefore the concern increases that the way we use resources as MSMEs, all 18 million of us in Kenya, can we continue to use them at the rate we are doing and still allow for future generations to find and use these resources at the rate that we have been doing so? And when you consider that, it shows that we have a critical role to play in supporting sustainable development. So for us, having that passion that we must empower MSMEs for positive impact, it became critical that we join this agenda. It's a global agenda, that we joined it and that we support MSMEs to work towards where the rest of the globe is working, which is a more sustainable future. And this concept of sustainable development has been discussed globally for many years. If you think about today being 2023, we are really talking about 50 years, of this continuous discussion. And the concept of sustainable development received its first major international recognition in 1972, as you can see, at the UN Conference on Human Environment, which was held in Stockholm. And that term was not referred to explicitly as we do now, but nevertheless, that international community agreed to the notion that, to the notion of sustainable development, which therefore led us to agree that separate issues could be managed in a mutually beneficial way. And when I talk about mutually beneficial way, I'm talking about different countries and regions of the globe, as well as different generations. So our generation, future generations, and generations to come after that. And then again, this conversation sort of went mute, came up again in 1992, 2 decades later, at the Rio Plus 20 conference in Brazil, where again the concept of sustainable development was formed. And this summit marked the first international attempt to draw up some action plans and strategies towards moving to a more sustainable future. And the thing is, discussions 20 years later become now the first attempt to draw action plans. And you see, it means that it's not been a very smooth journey. The intention has been there, but again, putting action behind that word is where the actual commitment was. And here we are again, 1997, another whole 5 years after the action plans, where again, the Kyoto Protocol, finally, there was an international treaty on how can this 1992 framework be adopted and operationalized. So in 2002, there was the World Summit on Sustainable Development in Johannesburg. This one had 3 key outcomes. The first one is a range of partnership initiatives. So there was understanding and agreement that no one person will come and save the world. All of us together, the all of society must come on board and work collaboratively towards the direction we are saying is needed. And the reason I emphasize on that is because we as MSMEs many times view bigger companies, large corporate, as the culprits. They are the ones contributing to the biggest damage. So they are the ones who should be giving us actions for the way forward. But the whole point is our little contributions to this negative impact, This little, you've heard of, for the Kenyans who are here, haba na haba ujaza kibaba. Little by little, 18 million companies becomes a significant contribution to the negative. Therefore, it was important and it remains important that we partner towards this direction. And in 2030, the global agenda was adopted, and we all received what we now commonly know as the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, which are 169 targets. Then, just last year in November, we had here in our continent of Africa the COP27. And discussions then continue. But what is this sustainable development? What are we talking about? Coming straight from just dictionary meaning, it's the ability to maintain at a certain rate or level. So an example of sustainability of economic growth means that we are growing at a rate, we are growing economically at a rate or level that will be maintained from generation to generation to generation. So when we talk about our contribution to sustainable development, means that MSMEs come and put in enough contribution that generation after generation, this development can continue to be sustained. At the same time, there was another example of the pursuit of global environmental sustainability, which referred to avoiding of depletion of natural resources in order to maintain an ecological balance. And this is, if you can cast your eyes and vision into the far future in several generations to come, it is exactly in that regard. If it is the use of water, for example, can we use water at the rate that we're using it today and still enable future generations and generations after that to find that water and continue to use it at the rate and level that we're using it today, and still generations after them are able to do that? And the Brundtland Commission is a landmark commission when it comes to sustainable development and that global agenda. And they define sustainable development as the ability to, for present generation, to meet our needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So we are not saying they'll be able to meet their needs somewhat. We are saying at the rate and level that we are doing it today. And that commission looked at these needs when they say for us to meet our needs today in a way that does not compromise future generations to meet their needs. They segmented these needs into just 9 needs, and which are subsistence, protection, affection, understanding, participation, leisure, creation, identity, and freedom. And they looked at these needs across a scale of what are the qualities needed, having those things, what are those things, doing what actions are those, what interactions and settings are those, and for us to therefore continue to meet these as which were viewed as human needs in a way that our future generations still, who we envision through the Brundtland Commission that will have similar needs, continue to meet them at their own rate. And that is quite high level, but you can read a bit more about this to get a deeper understanding. And the most beneficial thing I have found from digging deeper into the Brundtland Commission and all these discussions which have been going on is just my empathy and desire to be able to do things in a way that all those generations that will come after me will receive exactly what we are having at the rate and level that we are having. So that if we see natural resources which are beneficial to us, like water, being something so important to us today at the rate we are using, to then still be important to those generations. And because of how I have used or managed that resource, they're still able to use it at that rate, which is a well-managed rate, and then have future generations after them still have the same ability. Beyond that, also thinking about the elements which are being depleted. How do we reverse, that cycle of that depletion? And it brings us to the funnel metaphor. And what the funnel metaphor talks about, if you see there at the bottom, there's a bold word in red that says present. Presence is you and I today, being in this world, needing these resources and using them. Yeah? And then future are those generations way beyond our children and our grandchildren, but those generations in the future, and then considering our demands and use of this. So as time goes by, you will see that our population is growing, consumer habits are increasing, and because these people needs are needs for each and every person, it means then our demands on the natural resources and on the environment is also growing, because Terry by herself and one organization by itself, the demand it has on these environment and resources is quite different from having 100 Terrys, 100 organizations, from having 18 million small companies here in Kenya. And when you see the funnel there, it says the things which are declining is the availability of resources, the capacity of these resources to restore themselves, the purity of these resources, as being fair and equitable, because of course as demand increases, competition increases, and this competition is almost bringing a survival for the fittest to the fore, whereby then those who are marginalized are not able to access these resources, yet we all have similar needs as people. And when we talk about organizations, organizations represent people, and the organization itself is really, as a legal entity, has its own needs on these resources, and therefore if it's a survival for the fittest, the weakest are the ones who don't make it, and the weakest first and foremost are future generations who have no control of what we are doing today, but in current generations it is us, the MSMEs, who become then that vulnerable. So when you see market pressure, that competitiveness is really growing, the population increasing, and all that, then the funnel is compressing. That is that image, I have drawn there. That's what we are trying to demonstrate, that there is compression. And where there's compression, we know there is so much pressure. And where there's pressure, it's a time bomb. It's not sustainable. So what we need to do as time goes is that we need to be able to reverse, restore what is declining, reverse what is increasing, or slow down what is increasing, so that we get to a point where that funnel is expanding again and we are easing the pressure, and therefore that now will be sustainable beyond our generation to future generations, and they will be able to use at the same rate. And if they use at the same rate and level, minding and managing to make sure that what has been declining is being restored and what has been increasing is sustained or decreased, then generations after them will also be able to continue to enjoy these resources at the same level. So in a sustainable society, these two pressures would therefore be stabilized, can even begin to be reversed, the pressure can begin to be eased, and now we are talking about a sustainable future. So if we always think about the funnel metaphor, it's a good place to be when we make decisions about whether we would like to adopt sustainability practices, when we decide to join the global agenda, because this is so critical for all of us as a globe. And at the same time, when you begin to see where can you begin, there are easy places, low hanging. We'll look and consider this in the next 2 months within the program. And we hope as we continue, you're not only able to make a decision to adopt ESG sustainable practices, but you're able to pinpoint, uh, set some goals. Where would you like to start? What are the 2 to 3 priorities? And at the same time, be able to put together a simple work plan that kicks you off through this journey. And we'll be able to guide you beyond the 2 month program. What are the other possibilities that lie ahead of us? So as you go through the program, it's not two months and then we'll leave you hanging. After 2 months, there'll be clear direction. What else can your company do? And particularly as you remain within the II network, there's opportunities to work with you towards making that goal or dream or vision a reality further down the road. So let's look more deeply at ESG, because we have discussed that and talked about what is ESG. So the environmental looks at every business utilizing energy resources, therefore every business affecting the environment and being affected by the environment. And when you talk about this, some of the things to consider is, for example, climate stability. And we have some sectors which are more directly or more severely impacted. They're all impacted, but some sectors are more severely impacted when you think about, um, you know, uh, agribusiness, for example, immediately I think of things like floods, droughts. These are things that have severe impact. When we think about construction, we have seen same matters, climate, so other than climate stability, natural resources, considering what are these natural resources. And many times what we have been saying as SMEs, not even as SMEs, maybe as a globe, is that, oh, those are natural disasters. And disasters are not natural. Disasters are contributed to by man. And most of the time, this is the root that we are not taking care of, of our resources and how we are using them. And therefore, we are contributing heavily to the degradation of our environment, among other factors. Waste management. How do we manage our waste currently? How do we innovate? How do we improve the goods and services that we provide? And how does this affect the environment? So the social criteria again considers this company operating within another society. Now, this society we operate within, number one, is diverse. It's not one definition of people. We have several different segmentation of people. We have, for example, male, we have female, we have youth, we have the elderly. We also have just what we call the general population, which is not youth and not elderly. We have persons living with disabilities. We have so many, even within the PWDs, we can segment it further. Actually, within every of these, we can segment them further. How are we then able to address relationships and the reputation within these people and institutions, particularly in the communities where we do business? And we have to think about human capital management. There's an opportunity here for us as MSMEs to consider having gender equality and social inclusion policies or practices that you can adopt, or even begin to sensitize our companies towards this to ensure that there is inclusivity. There is diversity. I have seen so many studies because I've had a keen interest on gender equality, and I've seen so many studies which show that companies actually which are diverse are performing better because they are a boiling pot of different perspectives and therefore minimizing the blind spots. And this is something to consider, and not just consider it in terms of our human capital, like our employees, but also our various stakeholders. How do we ensure that we're interacting effectively with the ecosystem and taking care of each and every population that's represented in the larger society that we operate within? Also, the value chains the very same way. And I think that touches on my very last comment, because when you think of value chains, it is even your suppliers, your different partners. And then finally, there's the governance criteria, which really refers to that internal system of practices, of controls, of procedures that we use to govern the business, to make effective decisions. Compliance is critical, and we know that as MSMEs, one of the main hindrances of actually scaling and growing is compliance. But with Invest in Africa, we are also able to support, and we have supported so many, including rural, informal MSMEs, to be able to achieve compliance, and finally to meet the needs of external stakeholders. So it talks about managing our risks, and risk management right now is so critical because since 2020, the onset of COVID, we have become more aware about our need to become more resilient because the attrition rate was humongous. It was so huge. So many businesses were shut down, and many survived just because they were agile enough to pivot. But we have to think about not just disasters of the magnitude of COVID, but disasters that cut across various sectors, not just health, and be able to put in place structures that can support us to survive when disasters like this and worse of larger magnitude affect us. Now, one thing for me to mention before I move from that is that disasters are increasing in frequency and intensity. And in as much as they affect all organizations, MSMEs bear the brunt. We are the most affected. And yet, we are 18 million of us in Kenya who are providing jobs, who are providing livelihoods, who are alleviating poverty, who are contributing to the GDP, who at the same time, um, uh, if you think about um, meeting each and every county, each and every region, we talked about very low entry barriers. We are the ones who are able to go and ensure that there is a balanced economic development all around. So when our attrition rate, when you're so fragile and our attrition rate is very high, then our entire economy is at a very high risk. So we talk about anti-bribery and corruption. We talk about transparency, and these are matters we shall consider more deeply when we come to talking about the program itself, the 2-month program. So in environmental, we'll be considering things like climate change, natural resources, pollution and waste, and biodiversity. We'll also be looking at socially, what are human rights? What does social inclusion mean for our or a supply chain? In fact, not social inclusion, social sustainability, because inclusion is just one piece, one element of the entire sustainable picture. What standards are there in terms of supply chain, and particularly if you're an SME who is looking to grow, who is looking to scale, who is looking to participate in intra-Africa trade, who is looking to trade within the counties. You have to be aware of this. You have to think of labor management, road and safety, and human capital development. And human capital development is so critical for risk management for MSMEs, because many MSMEs die off because maybe as an owner, as a founder, you're unwell. There has not been enough, what can I say? Cushioning in terms of if someone is not there. We have seen maybe someone in finance falls ill, suddenly all our reports, all our compliance financially is out of the window, and these are things we'll be considering within the program. Then in terms of governance, how do you handle corruption and instability, the executive pay, board diversity? So first and foremost, how do you ensure you have a board, which is a key element of governance? And then how do you ensure that it is diverse? How do you ensure that your business has certain ethics? Are they known by everybody? Are they followed? Are they being complied to? And we will be looking at this more closely within the program as well. And of course, looking forward to hearing a lot from your experiences, the things that you're pondering on, some of the things that you can share with your peers so that we work together, all of us. And these days, you've had a lot of discussion around the triple bottom line. Before, we were so concerned with profit. The business has to make money. The success of the business depended on if it made money. And the more money the business made, the more successful we viewed it. Now we are not concerned only about the profits. We want to know, how are you interacting with the environment, the planet? And there's sustainable reporting. We'll talk about it through the program. What's the value of that, of reporting against your sustainability? How are you interacting with people? And people is people internally, people externally, basically your stakeholders and your larger society. And these three contribute to what you call sustainability. And we no longer look at a company's success as just the profit. We look at a company's success from a triple bottom line perspective, which really considers the profit, the planet, and the people. And when I talk about we consider, one of the key roadmaps for survival, not just for survival, for growth and scaling for MSMEs, is the ability to gain new markets and gain financing that you need. And now, if those who are providing the market and those who are providing the finances are no longer just looking at you as, give us 3 years annual audited reports. They're instead saying, can we see your sustainability report? Yes, we are interested in the profit just as much as we're interested in the planet and the people, because we have made a commitment that we are only working with organizations who are like-minded, who like us care about this aspect, because we want to ensure that future generations afterwards can come and meet their needs at the rate and level with which you're meeting ours. So we want to work with partners who are in that same mindset with us. And these are things that we have continued to consider as important and ponder on. Then very soon you will either need to jump on board or start seeing the challenges coming on. And when we talk about the business case for ESG integration and reporting, because I've already just mentioned briefly on reporting. Why should we care? How does it concern us? And I have tried to look at the perspective of both the risks as well as the opportunities. So there are risks, and of course, to be resilient is to be able to effectively mitigate our risks. But also, there's opportunities, and you have to grab opportunities before runners and continue to grow and contribute to all the good side that we have talked about MSMEs. And looking, let's say we run down from 1 to 5. The first one, the risk is very much also around compliance and around getting that social license. Social license means where people, stakeholders, and people that are affiliated with your business, either through society or being as stakeholders, you need a buy-in from them. So other than the license you get from, the county that you're good for business, you need to be accepted by your own employees, by your customers, by supply chain, by the larger society. You wouldn't want a boycott and legal injunctions because of problems of compliance, looking at all that. And secondly, just mitigating that risk. Right now we're talking of risk reduction, but we want to get to a point where the risk has been so managed that it is mitigated in good time. And when it occurs, there is a good response in good time and restoration. And when you think about that, there's all the single bullets you have put there. And then there's a lot of opportunities. 3, 4, 5 looks at the opportunities. The way we use resources, the way we handle waste management right now is a real opportunity to be a forerunner and to be able to chart new waters, particularly when it goes to connecting and linking with like-minded people, whether they're financiers or market providers or just customers and other stakeholders, including employees who are so critical for business. There's a competitive advantage that people begin to endear to your brand because they feel we share a mindset. We're on the same page, and I'd like us to get there together. And I see Lucy's hand. I'd like to invite you to just put something in the meeting chat box. And we will come to it as soon as I finish running down the slides. There are not too many. I'd like to wrap it up by 3 so that we have time for Q&A and interaction and maybe just sharing from your end as well. Thank you. And Jean will help me with the meeting chat box there. Finally, is the revenue generation. Now, this one cannot be overemphasized. And I'll just maybe go to this next slide to talk about that. So there has been a link that has been determined between ESG sustainability and financial performance. And when you look at this, which we've put here, which was a study conducted in 2015, that is almost 10 years ago. It's about 8 years, 9 years ago. But at the same time, these studies actually right now are showing further enhancement of correlation between ESG sustainability and financial performance. And about more than 2,000 studies were taken to be able to bring this aggregate. So this is an average of more than 2,000 studies. It's dated 2015. Right now, so many more studies, although I haven't yet come across the aggregation, have been done and the correlation is increasing. And you can see that the percentage is that what is positive when you're doing ESG sustainability, there is so much positive impact in terms of people who have responded or organizations that have responded that yes, our financial performance is higher after switching to ESG sustainability. And if that is not enough, maybe you think, oh, finance is okay, well and good. The work of Invest in Africa, our mission is about empowering micro, small, and medium enterprises to create sustainable jobs. How do we do that? By catalyzing trade and investments with MSMEs. So, through our business platform, biashara.now, means therefore that we have opportunities for two things, for markets and for finance for MSMEs. And what we have begun to see, this is our first-hand experience, is that there is an increasing demand for ESG sustainability on suppliers. It's all suppliers, including MSMEs. The providers of markets, the providers of finance are no longer keen to give a leeway to MSMEs in regard to sustainability, because we all understand the severity today of some of the negative impacts that we have, like um, climate change, for example. And therefore, people want to work with like-minded people who show a commitment to move in that direction. They're willing to work and develop with us as long as we have made a stand that, yes, we do see the need and are willing to walk this work. And there's additional supporting documentation. So the usual documentation is asked for: give us your company profile, where is your tax compliance and things like that. And beyond that, or even your business registration number, beyond that, now they want to see where is copies of your management and shareholders. Can we see them? We want to vet them and see what kind of people are they? Are they aligned with where we are going? They're asking for a signed health and safety management plan. It's now a prerequisite, and prerequisite means that you can no longer access what you could access if that document is lacking. Environmental management plan. And in the environmental management plan, they want to see how you managing waste, for example. How do you use your energy? How do you use your water? Do you have policies? Are your SMEs, um, I mean, not SMEs, are your employees sensitized and trained? Are your larger stakeholders sensitized that this is where the company is? What are your human rights policies and procedures? Where is your code of ethics? Do you have a code of ethics or conduct? If not, are you willing to sign theirs? Do you agree with it? And of course, if by the time it's prerequisite, you may not even get to that point of a discussion unless you already were in the supply chain, for example. Do you care about how you produce? Let me talk now to the agribusiness. Do you care how you produce? Are we able to trace your product to the point of production to be able to say no chemicals, bad chemicals were used on this product? Child labor was not entertained here. We had a policy against, or the company you're sourcing from have a policy against sexual harassment. And if not, we have seen boycotts. We have been seeing the news. The people are not using your products if it can no longer be traced and if it's not traceability. And part of what Invest in Africa does is to support MSMEs to enhance traceability and transparency, so that if you go to a new market, Europe or any other market for people who care, through just scanning your barcode, they can be able to trace this product to the beginning. And they're more comfortable to use it because they know it is not eroding their values and their commitments towards sustainability. Do you have a supplier management procedure or socioeconomic development plan or strategy? Basically, we want to see, do you care how you address relationships and what is your reputation like? So this already suggests that as we continue through the years and next few years and several months, is that very soon it can become a barrier to doing business. And especially if you have those aspirations to grow, to scale, to export, to participate in intra-Africa trade, you need to be fully aligned towards this global agenda by adopting ESG sustainable practices. And SDGs, therefore, must be a concern for you at all times. And as we look here, maybe you can put in the meeting chat box, what SDGs do you see your company participating with? You know, I think if I see the very last one of governance there at the bottom, 17, partnerships for the goals. And this is something I can say, okay, tick, we are working very closely as Invest in Africa with other organizations. We are really, Jean has talked about Invest in Africa, has convened different stakeholders. We are taking an all of society approach. Come together, all of us. That's why we are on this call with you. Let's work together to move towards a sustainable world. What other SDGs? And we have so many others I can point out for Invest in Africa. But it's important if some people can drop in the meeting chat box just your company name and which SDG. For example, if you're really concerned. And some of them cut across. I think even as you're pondering that, and hopefully some people putting down a few charts, let me mention that some of these areas overlap. So they overlap to each other. When you talk of ESG, for example, if you look at the very first column under environment, the last icon on row number 2 is 13, climate action. When you go to governance, climate action. So we are not only doing climate action from an environmental perspective, we are putting in place policies. What is it about governance, whether it's within the company, whether it's contributing to the larger environment policies, but that is part of our work. On the same row again, it is actually 11, 12, 13. And when you move over to a governance, 11, 12, 13. I hope you can see that. We can see number 6 on environment as the very first icon. And in row number 2, the last icon under social, you see again number 6. So many of these areas are cutting across each other. When you talk about socially, number 5, SDG 5, gender equality. These are things that you can actually take action when you consider your social, whether it is internally for employees, whether it's at the board level, whether it's other stakeholders, including customers and society. But when you come to governance, where are the policies? Where are the procedures? What has actually been put down as law, the way you govern yourself internally, so that even it doesn't depend on the good heart or good nature of one person who is in charge of things now. No, we have passed it as an organization that this is how we shall view, or this is our perspective and commitments on this matter. Let me check the chat box to see whether nobody has put in anything about the SDGs they're contributing to. And I feel that sometimes you feel, because I've not declared it and I've not really been mentioning this year SDG, that doesn't concern me. But I'd like to give another perspective. If already today you look at your work and you notice your work is touching on any of these areas, then we must say that you are concerned with that SDG. Now, by identifying it and claiming it, it helps you to commit further to actually ensure that what you're doing and how you're doing your business, what you're doing means like your business, and how you're doing it is intentional. It is not accidental that I land on an SDG or another. It is actually intentional that we are moving towards that direction. For example, if I'm in agribusiness, I can say, I'm on SDG 2, zero hunger. Why am I saying that? Because I'm in agribusiness and it tells me that, agribusiness is about providing nutrition. Therefore, I am contributing to SDG 2. Now, by becoming more intentional means you think clearly through. And right now, if you identify and say I'm in SDG 2, it may just mean that I feel SDG 2 is already aligned with my sector. But then when you become more intentional and with the help of this program, what it could mean is that you think more carefully around how do I produce food that's nutritional. You want to enhance the nutrition of your food, maybe by less use of chemical, by your practices to grow. And secondly, you can say, I want to make it more affordable so that it can reach people who would naturally not be able to afford it. And it's not a strategy for everybody. I'm giving an example. And that way, then you think about, I am producing in a manner that helps me to make the costing affordable for people maybe in rural areas if I am based in a rural area and things like that. And it could be many other things, but I'm just giving that example. If it's SDG 1 socially, it's about no poverty. For example, Invest in Africa, what does it do? It has made us to think about how we engage the rural MSMEs. How can we go and help, especially the youth and especially the young women who are so marginalized that they have no access to much of the factors of production, and support them to put together a business, even if it's in groups and a few numbers, achieve compliance and start to gain livelihood from this project. Then we already can anticipate and even empower them on how what they're making can go back towards their own families and ensuring that then they're eradicating that extreme poverty. These are ways that's going through my mind. So far, I don't see anyone still typing anything. I don't know whether it remains a mystery, but I'm so interested to see how we will continue within the program and whether something comes to mind for you. SDG 6 and SDG 2 for sanitation. And this is Judy Njogi, who I need to scroll up a bit and see. Yes, Zeb cleaning services. Fantastic. There we go. SDG 6 and SDG 2. Thank you very much. And now you can imagine within the program, you'll be able to look at the two more intentionally and say, what am I doing about them, Judy? And may even discover that there are others now you feel proud to own and say, oh, these are the SDGs as well can apply to us and we are committed to move forward. So this is what the program will be about, opening our mind, helping us to envision how we can be participating more intentionally towards sustainable development, charting some goals, some bold goals, and setting goals of this is some of the areas we can move forward and actually putting in place work plans that can help you to effectively get to the end. And I'm so excited the chat box is starting to light up. And Nubly Technologies says SDG 5 and SDG 13. Fantastic. SDG 5, we know that's gender equality. So you see, this is something they're already contributing for to and climate action. So perhaps the way they manage their waste, and these are things that they can look at, especially in technology, how you manage your waste is so critical for our environment. We have power generators who are SDG 7, SDG 13, SDG 8. Fantastic. And I'm wondering whether it's also SDG 11, But here we are. We'll explore this journey together. Thank you so much, Judy, Yasin, and Monica for that bold step. And I think this already, great. She's acknowledging 11 is important too. And what this feels like is that boldness of starting to feel I'm not isolated. I am critical for this global agenda. I'm critical in ensuring my business is not only sustainable today, but it does this in a way that empowers future generations to still be sustainable and put them in the best position for them to lay the ground, a good ground for future generations after them. So this is what the program will entail. I'm excited, looking forward to getting there. We have 2 months. You're asking yourself, oh, what happens for these 2 months? We have a number of sessions. Thank you, Mudhani Kamere. She said SDG 5, 8, 10, and 17. 17, so critical. Partnerships for the goals. And I think all of us are there in 17. No one is working in isolation today. I believe in the world today, all of us are working in collaboration, more in collaboration and less in competition. So I would say SDG 17. At the same time, I see 5. Gender equality, the same as Joseph Indoor 17, partnerships for the goals, SDG 12. Very good. Please, if you have written these SDGs here in the chat box, note them down somewhere for yourself. Try and think through, try and discuss them a bit with people in your company, and most importantly, bring them as we continue to learn and let us together consider them and walk through them. And once you've claimed them, even as you go through your slides in the future, as you talk about your company, talk about your company with your SDGs. So through this mission, we are contributing to SDG 5, 8, 11, and 17. That is, I can't pronounce that name, SAPQ, but these are your SDGs that I'm borrowing, and boldly there, claim them. And once you claim them, you put in commitment. Very soon, what do you see? You started to adopt the practices. And some of these things are such low-hanging fruit. Someone was telling me, I hate hearing that use of low-hanging fruit because it suggests things which are not, made to last. But what I mean is that we must have a starting point that we start to learn from and continue to build on. This is the 2 months, how we envision it to be. I must say that we remain quite flexible and will adjust to the needs of our SMEs. So therefore, we have currently envisioned that we will have four sessions. And the first session, and in between the sessions, we'll share with you quite some material as well, takeaways that we'd like you to sit and ponder on and consider with the organizations, because we'd like you to walk away having some concrete direction in terms of from here where. Thank you so much. I'm seeing continued contribution in the chat box, Asante. So today we were just laying the foundation. We were introducing the program. We are so excited. We wanted, the only thing that could have been better than this was to introduce it a few months earlier when we had intended to, but we had to put in some learning and continue to build onto the program. We feel now is the best time and we look forward to your participation. Next, we are going to be talking about how do you build that ecosystem of sustainability within your business. We don't want you to imagine sustainability is upon you. It is actually upon your entire organization, your stakeholders internally and externally, and therefore there has to be quite active building of an ecosystem for you to begin to adopt these practices. And would like to spend this session just shedding light and making introductions towards what can be done, what is critical, and which way from here. And then we will be looking at risk mitigation. How do you mitigate? Remember, there's a slide talking of risks and opportunities, and that slide is why we'll focus. Now, how do we mitigate the risks? How do we make sure we leverage the opportunities for value creation? And we want to spend a bit of time in September on 19th looking at this. And the reason we have not put the timings is because one of the things our SME engagement team, and particularly Jean, would like to do is to have just quick sampling of what times work best. Most of our SMEs prefer this time at 2 p.m. and we would like to continue in a way that enables you to participate because it's not a one-off session. So we'll be checking and does this time still work for you and things like that. Then as we get into October, we'll start shedding light. We won't be ready yet to develop your ESG impact report, but we want you to start imagining that report so that you can make decisions and begin to work on the elements that would contribute to the report. And we'll start to look at and explore stakeholder engagement, which is the critical factor, the backbone of the S criteria, the social criteria. What mapping your relationships, agreeing and how you're going to address these relationships, just even envisioning the reputation you'd like to build with these different stakeholders and starting to work towards that. And as we conclude the program, we have an ESG assessment tool that will be giving you to go and work on. It is really a self-evaluation of where is your company at right now in terms of ESG, so that as you continue on your journey now of the things you've said you'll do, you'll be able to come back, keep taking the tool as often as you'd like to see whether you're growing in the manner you wish to continue. But we would like to get that tool when it's done as Invest in Africa, because we shall use it to continue to enhance development of content and material that supports you to move forward in terms of sustainable development. So that is it in introducing the program. I've taken 10 minutes more than I anticipated, but I would still like us to spare time for a few questions if there are any. We will not just block it and say we are doing a Q&A now, it's done. Continue to engage us. We have said this is 2 months. And in fact, just for me to make a quick mention, we are still registering for the program. So if you know people that you'd like or this can be useful for them or you'd like them to join, please do so. And as Jean concludes, because I will let her take over shortly after I read this one comment, then please feel free to do that. Mudhoni says, took some time to put my program expectations together. Thank you. And these are expectations. Deepen her understanding of ESG sustainability. I shall do that. Navigate frameworks. I hope, Jean, we can note these ones because it will help us to enhance some of the things we hadn't planned for. We are actually going to input here. And of course, because the program itself, as you can see, is a few sessions, the materials in between is what I really urge us to work together, so that if we share materials and say come with them in the next session, then it's possible for us to actually cover ground. And this will include some frameworks, enhance ability to enhance MSME challenges and opportunities based on context. Good. Learn to tailor ESG recommendations, identify ESG related risks and benefits, and ESG reporting. All this will be made available overall, Looking forward to the program equipping me with the knowledge and refining my skills to guide MSMEs towards effective ESG integration and enabling them to embrace sustainable practices. Thank you very much, Mudhoni, for sharing those. And we invite everyone else, even through the feedback link or the chat, share more of this, because once we move away from here, we shall be looking at that and we shall be using that to continue to enhance the content that we have prepared for you. And of course, we will balance it between what comes here in class. You can almost call it class this session, but we'll see what comes here. What do you take away as homework to discuss with our teams, or to ponder more ourselves, or to just come up with, a few responses that you can consider in the next class, and let's make the 2 months very impactful. I'm looking forward to the session. I want to thank you all for giving me the time and listening. I'm so passionate about this topic, and I hope you will join me and Invest in Africa this journey towards making sure that MSMEs can adopt sustainable development practices, and that we can continue to contribute very effectively and positively to the prosperity of our nation and the globe, because it's a global agenda. Thank you so much, and over to you, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Terry. I hope we have all learned something on the environmental, social, and governance factors of sustainability, and why this is important for us who are in business. I had noticed Lucy had her hand up and I didn't see the comment on the chat box. So maybe, Lucy, if you are able to type or speak up by unmuting yourself, we can hear your comment or question. In the meantime, as I wait for that, if you have a colleague or a friend who you feel can benefit from this program, I have shared the registration link there. All they need to do is input their details there and they will be able to join the program. Okay, Lucy, I note it was a mistake. That's all right. Okay, do we have any questions or comments from anyone in the room? Please feel free to share something that you have learned, something that you're taking away as we continue in the program. As Terry mentioned, this is not a one-off session, this is our kickoff, but we will be continuing this journey in September and October. So look out for the session links and be sure to join so that we can continue to learn together. Okay, I'm looking out on the chat box for any questions or comments. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Lucy. You say this is great. Thank you so much. Yes, the sessions will be 1.5 hours, inclusive of the discussion and Q&A going forward. More likely they will be at 2 p.m., but we will be reviewing your feedback just to make sure that they're tailored to the time where most of us are available. Grace, I see your hand up. Welcome to speak.
Thank you very much. I quickly wanted to just check, will there be any form of technical support or guidance on any of the areas that one would want support on, and especially on sustainability issues raised? Because there is training, so I was just wondering if anyone needs technical support, is there a possibility? Thanks.
Yes, Terry, I feel you would want to speak on that.
Yes, allow me to. Yes, so Grace, thank you so much for your question. So there are two ways we are addressing this. So first and foremost, you do know that we work closely with funders, and one of the things we're actually trying to actively do right now is fundraise for this program to see whether we can have additional technical assistance. But in the meantime, we also do have consultants on our platform, although that would entail it would entail a fee, I believe, Jean, for anyone that's not IIA subscribed, right? Am I correct, Jean, on that?
Yes.
Yes, so for those who have IIA subscription, I'm sure they are able to get a particular number of hours from the IIA SMEs like us who are registered as consultants on the platform, but this doesn't mean it's only for those who are members or subscribed. All SMEs can be able to address at a fee. Now, within this time, should we get any funding, then this becomes a priority for anyone who has come up with work plans that need to be supported. Then, of course, we will be sharing this with you. So that's a two-pronged approach that we take, Grace. And the reason why we do a two-pronged approach as Invest in Africa is because we wouldn't want it to be blocked out that anyone cannot participate, and neither do we want everyone to feel that they have to wait until funding is achieved. Just because they may be having their own finances and ready to move forward. But also, we don't want anyone who does not have finance to move forward to feel locked out. That's why we pursue both avenues. So your individual needs can be discussed with Jean one-on-one, and she'll be able to guide based on where you're at as an MSME. Having said that, our intention as Invest in Africa is always to have a sustainable way to support MSMEs, hence why we have our Biashara.now platform, and the best direction for you individually can be guided to with that best interest in mind. Thanks a lot, Grace. I hope I've answered you. Sorry that there's no one answer because we are pursuing two things, and that's why we're introducing the program as a 2-month, because I think from there we can have either a collective journey or a personal journey, depending on how we go. Maybe the last thing I'd like to put in there, Jean, to answer that question is that we have an academy, Biashara Academy, and we are already putting together a toolkit, which is why we're not able to set off this project earlier. And through that toolkit, for SMEs who feel empowered enough for self-paced personal journey that needs a little or no intervention, those tools will still be in place, accessible to all members to support with the journey. And that is just to give you more options on how to move forward. I hope I'll have a more concrete answer by the end of the 2 months. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Terry. So there you have it in terms of technical support. And if at any point in the program you feel ready to move in the direction that Terry has mentioned, you can write to us and we will be able to see how to move forward, whether to link you with a technical expert available on our platform or what else we can do to support you. That could also be linking you to a business coach to help you to develop the action plans and ESG strategies. Okay, I can see, I've just seen a comment coming in. All right, I can see a lot of positive comments. Thank you so much. Lucy says it's great. Fidel says the session was amazing and he's looking forward to helping his fellow refugees around the world and particularly in Kakuma. That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Fidel. They can also join these training sessions. To join the Invest in Africa platform, you can join on that link that has been shared by our colleague Frank. Ruth says she's looking forward to learning how to measure and report ESG performance. Okay, look out for that. That will be in one of the sessions. And Paul has acknowledged that it was a good session, a good start, and is looking forward to the next session. Thank you so much, everyone. If you have a question, again, we still have 9 more minutes to the close of the forum. So please share your question either in the chat box or raise your hand. We'll be able to address. Again, comments are also welcome. As we said, we aim to improve these sessions as we go along. So I have shared a form in the chat box. Please share your feedback with us. It will help us improve in terms of the timing, tailoring the content to your needs, and just making sure that we have a successful program. So just click that link and share your thoughts. Okay. All right, then as we do that, Allow me to just move a quick vote of thanks. Thank you to everyone who is in the room today. Thank you for joining, for engaging with us, for sharing your expectations. It's going to be a great, great journey of 2 months. So we look forward to your consistent participation. If there's any support that you need, please feel free to reach out to the Invest in Africa team. There are some contacts that are being shared on your screen right now. You can reach out to any of those. You can connect with us on our social media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Join the Biashara Now platform if you're not already a member. I know most of us are. And we look forward to a successful program. We look forward to your learning and implementing these ESG practices in your businesses.